There are over 300 different weapons in Elden Ring, and any one of them can be your god-slaying tool of choice. However, not all weapons are made equally, and some really stand out from the rest. I'm Stonebear13, and I've scoured the lands between to collect them all, so I can share with you the top weapons to get in every zone. And what better way to start off than with the top 5 weapons in Limgrave. Before we begin, I just want to note I will not be including any weapons that are rare drops from enemies, but if you'd like to see a video on that, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Now then, starting off as a weapon that most of you will probably be familiar with, the Uchi-Katana. This is the starting weapon of the samurai class, and it's definitely worth grabbing. This weapon can be found at the Death-Touched Catacombs, and to get there, we'll start at the Saint's Bridge Site of Grace. When you load in, turn around and head up the rocks to your right. Stay to the left along the cliffside, and after you pass some bushes, on your left will be the entrance. You're going to have to run all the way to the end of the dungeon and pull the lever for the boss room in order to unlock the door blocking the hidden corridor in the first room. Once you've done that, head down the corridor and take a left into a second corridor to find the Uchi-Katana. This comes with the Unsheath Ash of War ability, which is unique to katanas. Performs a lightning fast strike in either a horizontal or vertical motion when you use either a light or a heavy attack. And while this weapon is great by itself, if you want, you can dual wield these early game by of course starting off with the samurai class. They hit in quick succession, resulting in some really solid damage, as well as some pretty decent blood loss buildup. And the crouch attack is a tandem hit that has some really decent range on it. To cap it all off, the Uchi-Katana's Ash of War can be swapped out, giving it some serious potential. Like many of you, I love giant weapons, and our next weapon, the Great Axe, does not disappoint. On top of having a meaty moveset, this weapon boasts a relatively low stat requirement of 30,
meaning you'll only need 20 if you plan on two-handing.
This powerhouse also comes with the Ash of War Barbaric Roar, giving about a 10% attack power boost and altering your heavy attack into a 3-hit combo for 20 seconds. To get this weapon for yourself, you'll need to stop the cart near Waypoint Ruins. Once you slay the giants, and the Kaiden Rider, and the rest of the enemies, head to the back of the cart, and inside the chest is the Great Axe. The next 2 weapons are actually found in the same dungeon, the Fringe Folk Hero's Grave. Now before anyone panics, I know that for many of you, chariot dungeons feel really difficult, but just follow along and trust me, you'll survive. From the Stranded Graveyard Site of Grace, head to the imp statue on the right. Do note, this fog wall is unique and you'll need 2 stone sword keys to get by. For the first one, you will want to follow the chariot as it heads down from the start of its path. Ignore the enemies and duck into the second cubby on your right. After it passes, move out, stay to the right, and enter the next cubby. Here, you'll jump off, anywhere on the left-hand side of the enemy that's spawning in. Once you reach the narrowed bridge, do not cross. Instead, we're going to walk off the ledge on the right-hand side. When you fall down, you'll be ambushed by 2 imps that you'll have to dispose of quickly. From there, peek down the staircase to spot the flame pillar, or whatever you want to call it, and make sure you deal with that. As you head down the hall, keep an eye on your right for the sneaky imp in the cubby, then head straight through, down the steps, and into the open room with the narrow bridge. In here, we will not be crossing, but rather dropping down again from the right-hand side. Descend into the goop and turn around to find an elevator. At the top, turn left to find a spectral banished knight waiting for you. Deal with him and stand where he was kneeling. If you look off the ledge and up a little bit, you'll see some jars. Using whatever you wish, be it arrows or pots, drop a jar onto the chariot as it passes underneath to be rewarded with the Erd Tree Great Bow. Scaling with faith, this bow comes with the Ash of War through and through, which enhances your shots, dealing more damage as well as allowing them to pass through enemies. Now I know some of you may be scoffing or asking why I would include a Great Bow on this list when they're infamously underpowered and there's other options available, but hear me out. If we read the description, it will tell us that it reveals its true worth when used with Holy Infused arrows. Those Holy Infused arrows are none other than the Golden Great Arrows, and this combination is what gives the bow a spot on the list. When used together, it results in a 20% damage boost, and on top of that, these arrows have a perk within themselves. When they land, they explode, giving a buff to nearby allies. This 45-second buff grants an 11.5% boost to damage and a 7.5% reduction to damage taken. While great bows may not be as viable as some may wish, this one's particularly great when used to engage enemies, especially when you have friends who can benefit from this buff as well. For our second weapon in the Fringefolk Hero's Grave, we'll follow the same path, dropping down from the first ramp. This time, cross the bridge, run all the way to the end of the corridor, and take a right. Be careful here, as the chariot may or may not follow you, depending on how quickly you got here, so be sure to move when you know that it's safe. When you get to the end, you'll find a spectral banished knight waiting for you. Send him packing, and he'll drop the Dragon Communion seal. This is an extremely popular seal within the community, and regardless of it receiving a nerf since release, it is still a must-have for many builds. The strength of the seal is that it scales primarily with Arcane as well as Faith, and if that wasn't appealing enough, equipping this strengthens the power of Dragon Communion incantations by 15%, making breath attacks even more devastating. And since the Arcane stat also affects the rate of status buildup, this seal is an absolute must-have before you leave Limgrave. Before I move on to my number one pick, I do have a single honorable mention, Reduvia. This dagger is fantastic, and I almost included it on this list. However, the only thing holding it back is just that. It's a dagger. And while it's a fine pickup early game, I don't think that it's flexible enough or strong enough as a weapon to make the list. Granting some good blood loss buildup and adding some much needed range, Reduvia Bloodblade is what makes this a contender. However, this ability, the decent blood loss buildup, and the other good things about this weapon just didn't feel good enough to push it into the top 5, regardless of how damn cool it looks. Without any further ado, my number one weapon not to miss in Limgrave is Bloodhound's Fang. As if being one of the highest physical damage dealing curved greatswords in the game wasn't enough, this has decent dexterity scaling. Honestly, this is just fun, and the range is impressive. The spinning crouch attack and the moveset of the curved greatsword makes it very powerful in its own right, but the Ash of War Bloodhound's finesse is what truly makes this one of the best. The initial strike can be followed up with a heavy attack to perform a dash forward into an uppercut, resulting in a gorgeous attack that is also devastating. With the initial use costing 8 FP and the follow-up at 12, it's on par with Spinning Slash, but obviously with much more utility. On top of all these wonderful things, it has blood loss buildup, and not just a little bit, a solid 55 per strike. Combine this along with its quick attacks and the Ash of War, there's no surprise that this took the number one spot. To collect this for yourself, you'll want to head to the Forlorn Hound Everjail. Starting from Agheel Lake's south side of Grace, head directly south to the Everjail. Inside, you'll find Bloodhound Darawil. And, as we all know,
Darawil is nothing but a traitor, and in need of a fitting end to his tale.
Once you've disposed of Darawil, you'll receive the Bloodhound's Fang. And there you have it, my top 5 weapons not to miss in Limgrave. Did I leave out any weapons that you would have included? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider leaving a like. And be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you can be notified of all of my upcoming Elden Ring content. Once again, I'm StoneBear13, and thanks for watching.